From the Keys to the Capitol, the state rep who represents Monroe County not only has the longest drive to Tallahassee, but some of the most fragile territory in Florida.
The Keys' environmental and development issues did not make the headlines this session like they did in the past, and abortion and education issues were preeminent in Tallahassee. Republican State Representative Jim Mooney has finished his first term. He's running for yet another, and there he is joining us now from Alamorada. Representative Mooney, great to see you.
Great to see you. I'm actually joining you from Hypoluxo, Florida. My mother's 91st birthday, so I'm at my daughter's house and my son-in-law's house.
Wow! Well, happy birthday to Mama Mooney, first and foremost.
Yeah, thank you. She's out with her great grandchildren, I should say. I say my grandbabies, but she's out there hanging out.
Wonderful.
So this is your first time joining our program. We're so happy to see you. And I want to start out with, Michael mentioned some of the contentious issues. We have state reps here almost every weekend talking about those, the big ones. Right now still in court, the more restrictive abortion law that Florida now has. You voted for that, as did every GOP rep and senator. I also want to bring up, though, you voted against an amendment floated to make an exemption for crime victims, people impregnated by rape or incest. We're watching that in the Midwest with a young girl right now. I'm curious why that exemption wouldn't be something that you could vote for.
Well, I will tell you that I struggled greatly with this bill early on. I dug deep into it, and I do apologize for my tire, by the way. So I dug deep into the bill. I dug deep into abortion issues across the country and actually around the world. And at the end of the day, I asked a lot of questions to some people who are probably smarter than myself, and I felt comfortable that given a number of circumstances, you could still get an abortion after 15 weeks. And I think that's the reason I voted for it. It wasn't that I thought it was a horrible amendment, but I felt comfortable that if you're put in a position in that place, then the reality of it is I still believe if you need to get an abortion after 15 weeks, you can get that done in Florida.
There is no abortion provider in Monroe County. Should there be with these new restrictions?
I wouldn't say there should be, because the unfortunate part of medical care in Monroe County anyway is that we don't have a lot of things in Monroe County that probably should be there. We just don't have the population base to actually make any one thing supportive. I mean, if you have a heart attack, you're going to get airlifted out or ambulanced out. You have brain surgery. So a lot of things are going to the mainland on a daily basis in all realms of the medical world. I don't say that there shouldn't be something there. I just think that the reality of it is, gosh, and I hate to say this, but there's probably just, these doctors need to make money, whether we like what they do or not, doesn't matter. But, we don't have brain surgeons in the Keys. We don't have any of that in the Keys. So everything comes to the plan. I think that's probably the biggest single reason. Yeah. I don't think about should or shouldn't be. I think it's just the reality of it. It's just not big enough. Yeah. For as much people that come to the Keys, we're extremely rural when you think about it.
Representative Mooney, you did vote, I know, against the Parental Rights and Education Bill, the correct title for the bill, which its critics call Don't Say Gay. What were your reasons for voting against that?
The 1557 bill, while the premise is certainly no one disagrees with the premise. I think if you set everybody down inside the house, no one wants anything to be taught that's not appropriate to be taught. I think some of the issues I had with that were the age appropriate. So what is age appropriate? Well, what's age appropriate for how I taught my children about the body? So I taught education. I was a physical education teacher. I had a lot of physiology classes and all that stuff at the University of Miami. So I taught my kids really scientific terms. Some parents may not like scientific terms. And I found the term age appropriate to be a little misleading. If you take somebody like myself, who was the youngest in the class, so I'm in fourth grade, probably should still been in third grade. The cutoff point between third and fourth, I don't see there's that much difference. The Department of Education doesn't have anything in the curriculum that these school boards draw from that teaches anything like this to begin with, any kind of sex education K through 3. There was an issue with the charter schools. They're funded by state, our tax dollars, and yet they weren't specifically mentioned in there. And I learned a long time ago with ordinances that when you write an ordinance, you need to be very specific as to how it applies. And if you don't, they'll always find a gray area. So I had a problem with our tax dollars not being equally spread across as far as the bill goes. So when you have a parent that has a child in charter school and they think they're protected, if that's what they feel they need to be, and they're not, at least according to, it's not definitive in the bill. The answer was it's not in there, but it could be in there. And so that wasn't working for me. And and being a former educator, I think that there are some areas within the bill itself where you put teachers in a very precarious position of how to deal with what these kids tell you in your realm as a teacher. And to have to say that I'm prudent enough to know if that child may have something bad happen to them when they get home, and I say, listen, your son or daughter would like to have a sex change or whatever that may be, you end up just too gray an area. And I just feel like the lawsuits are going to run rampant. And then
you know what? Let me. I don't mean to interrupt. I want to get like one more issue in before we run out. What was really interesting is you were actually one of 7 who bucked the GOP party line on that one, and half of those reps were from South Florida. So that was kind of interesting. But Representative, you had sponsored a bill to exempt Key West building restrictions to get some affordable housing built for the sheriff's office. We were talking to Miami-Dade's mayor earlier. You may have heard about affordable housing. How did you do that? And could that be a blueprint maybe for other affordable housing, especially for law enforcement or teachers, something like that?
I think it could be a blueprint. We, in Monroe County, we have a rate of growth ordinance. And as you probably are well aware of, in 2023, there will be no more new permits issued in Monroe County. So sort of what you see is what you get. So to go outside of the ROGO allocation, the city of Key West and the sheriff's office did an interlocal agreement that the city of Key West would build, or a builder would build, but in the city of Key West, up to 50 affordable housing units. I do believe it's cut at 24 right now is the plan, I believe. I haven't seen the plans themselves, but we had to go outside the road. There's a state statute that does allow for first responder buildings outside of other ordinances and statutes. So yeah, I do believe that anybody in the state of Florida has the ability to go around. And for us, it was a matter of going outside the rate of growth ordinance and the number of allocations. So we would have had to pull workforce housing units out of one section, give them to the sheriff's office. Okay. And we said, well, that's not going to be good because that's just going to cut somebody else off.
Representative Mooney, I'm going to have to, I beg your pardon, I'm going to have to cut in here. We are out of time. Right. Great to speak with you, and keep up the protection of the great Florida Keys.
I love where I live. That's the bottom line.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.